This is a sign. What goes around comes around, and nothing in this universe ever goes away. It just changes form. Hi, my name is Kieran. Welcome back to Sweet Infinity. I am on a 30-day quest to read one card from one of my tarot decks or one of my oracle decks, go over the artwork and imagery with you, and then interpret it in a way that I find relevant and that I hope resonates with you. So today I'm going to be reading from an oracle deck that I found in Goodwill, a thrift store. This is called the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck. This is a huge deck, and I checked and it was in completely unused form when I found it. So I picked it up. It found me. It has a huge guidebook. I'm going to be reading from that. And then it has these circular cards, which I find fascinating. They're a little bit difficult to work with. Circular cards I find difficult to work with, but they're just so cool. And there is this original artwork on here. Now, the artist who made this is Kim Krans. Kim Krans, Krans. And so the cards are round. They come in this round box. And they're like this. This oracle deck has many different types of images. They're made like collages. So the artwork is a combination of hand-drawn imagery plus collages. So it's very, very unique. And the concept is that these are different archetypes that show up in different ways for people. So I find it interesting. Anyway, beautiful deck, fascinating artwork. So I'm going to be trying to shuffle this because it's a little bit difficult, but I'll see what I can do. And then I'll pick a card and I'll read from the book and then I'll interpret it. Okay, here we go. How do you shuffle round cards? Okay, I'll try my best. So in the meantime, if you don't mind, please hit that subscribe button and the bell icon that's underneath this video. If you can, please share this video also and any of the others that are in my channel here. I'm trying to build this channel and trying to focus on spirituality and creativity and self-healing and things like that, because I feel like that's really needed in this world. And this is my way of trying to help out in the ways that I can. So I guess this is how you shuffle round cards. You kind of have to hold them and go like this. Okay, so yeah, these are big cards for my hands. Okay, so I'm going to pick a card from here and see what comes out. Okay. So the card that came up is the bridge. That's interesting. There's two hands. And there's water underneath. And there's these bands of colorful light or colorful energy going back and forth between the two hands. And it's reflected in the water as well. Okay, so let's read from the booklet. See what it says about this card. And the numbers are Roman numerals. So that's that. The text in the book is also, it has this handwritten font, which is pretty neat. Okay, let's find it. Ah, the bridge. So I'll read from the booklet. The bridge. The connection, the link, the gate. Bridges are built to connect two worlds. They create flow, allowing us to travel between realms, ideologies, personalities. This archetype is the gesture of acceptance of saying yes, rather than withdrawing, separating, and saying no. When we cross a bridge to an unknown land, we are led magically into a new reality. We open up to otherness. Healing and communication are made possible. We enter a state of curiosity, wonder, and learning. The shaman, for example, creates the bridge between the everyday world and the sacred. This card asks us to study the connections between the seemingly disconnected parts of our life, relationships, ideologies, or histories. Remember that a bridge can't be forced. It must be made with love, or its structure will not withstand the inevitable weather of life. Another part in this booklet says, imagine building a bridge, then imagine building a wall. Which energy is needed for the situation at hand? Which image softens and heals the heart? The bridge. I have worked with this deck only a little bit since I got it a couple of years ago. Mostly because round cards are difficult for me to work with. But I do love this deck. It's just so rich and full of symbology and meaning. And this card is very interesting because, well, I've just been thinking a lot about how divided this world is, how many people are feeling cut off from each other or from people who we used to feel connected to. There are valid reasons. I'm not denying that there aren't valid reasons for those connections to have ended. But at the same time, a lot of people are feeling very disconnected, like there's no connections left. It's a very sad state of affairs. Even within ourselves, there are aspects of ourselves that we can't reconcile sometimes. Even within my own psyche, even within my own mind, sometimes there's a kind of cognitive dissonance, which is when you have two opposing thoughts. And it's difficult for a person to reconcile them. When that happens, there isn't always a way to make a bridge. Sometimes a wall is needed. A wall and a bridge are basically the opposite of each other. Walls are boundaries, borders, a way to protect oneself, but also to keep oneself limited and to keep the outsider out, which also means that the ones who are inside are limited. Walls have those two qualities. They cut off the outside from the inside, and sometimes that's needed. For example, if you have a cut, like I get paper cuts all the time, your body naturally clots the blood around the cut, creates a barrier, a kind of wall, and that's what a scab is. It has to heal, and after a while, it heals, hopefully. Then a new layer of skin comes on top of that, the scab falls off, and hopefully your wound, even though there might be a scar left, but it starts to resemble the old skin again. The skin is actually very porous, even though there is a border there, but there's pores through which your skin secretes sweat and also picks up the temperature of the environment you're in. So there are nerve endings, there are pores. Your skin basically breathes. So your skin is always interacting with your environment. Even though we think of it as a barrier, it's also a bridge. Walls are needed. Scabs are needed at times. When there is a deep wound, it takes time to heal. But at the end of the day, everything really is connected. And when we say that, when anyone says that, the idea is not that there isn't sovereignty. No, the idea is there is sovereignty and connection. Because if there isn't sovereignty, then you can't say everything is connected, everyone is connected. There has to be separate, discrete things for things to be connected. Otherwise, it's just one thing, which is fine. You can think of it that way. There are lots of philosophies that word it in that way too. And that's fine. But when we're talking about bridges versus walls, both are needed. And both actually can function interchangeably. But it requires a kind of advanced way of thinking about things, which means that we can't be all about the walls and we can't be all about only bridges. Both are needed. Even bridges sometimes have tolls. If you cross the bridge between Canada and the US, for example, there's several of them, but there's this one called a Peace Bridge, there's one called a Rainbow Bridge. If you cross any of them, you have to check in with the immigration officer or border patrol people on either side of the bridge, which is a kind of wall. Even though it's a bridge, there's also barriers there. So if you have too many bridges with no controls on either side, okay, that's fine too. That might be needed in some cases where there's a free flow of information or traffic or people or whatever. But there's also a need for barriers. But if you have only barriers, only walls, if everybody else is kept out, if we always hate the other, if we always want the others to be outside and never have access to us and our side of the world, then you end up closing yourself in, ultimately, because everybody else is on the outside. They can just go play with each other, and you're the one who gets left all alone. And so there has to be a kind of balance between bridges and walls. And in this case, what I love about this imagery is that there are two hands, and the bridge is between the hands, between the people, between two hands that have been separated. And they might not be able to hold hands yet, but the bridge is there connecting them. And the bridge has many colors, so it has many different paths. There are many ways to build bridges. Not everybody is going to always be on the same page about everything. That doesn't mean there can be no bridges. And then the water underneath. Water in any kind of archetypes or mythology often signifies emotion. A lot of times what divides people is emotion, fear, a sense of betrayal, a sense of loss, resentment. Those are all emotions. Water, which is our emotion, which is a very important part of us, of course, is often what divides us in this case, right? And then we have the hands reaching out to each other, but both hands have to reach out. If one hand is clenched, the bridge doesn't work. Both hands have to be open to reaching some kind of connection. And then the colors of the bands are reflected in the water. So if you notice that in the process of building that bridge, of having that exchange of energy, the water itself, which in this case we could think of it as symbolizing the emotion, it changes. The water quality changes. It gets colored by the act of building a bridge. So the emotions are still there, but they are also affected by the act of building the bridge. So having that anger, resentment, fear can be affected by the building of bridges. It can reduce the intensity of the anger, fear, all of that stuff. You don't have to end the water. The water, the emotion, the fear does not have to go away for bridges to be built. If the bridge is built, it affects the emotions too. There's a back and forth quality, but somebody has to take the first step. So in your life, where are the bridges that you could build? Maybe someone made a mistake. Maybe someone said or did something to hurt you. Of course, there are situations which are unforgivable, but there are also situations that require a second look. Maybe after some time of healing, there is a need to reconsider where our feelings of fear and loss and hurt and betrayal are coming from. And can we forgive ourselves? Can we forgive? And by that, I don't mean an empty, lazy, hollow kind of forgiveness. I mean the fact that we're all trying to do as best as we can with the knowledge that we have. And at some point, we have to give ourselves some grace. That's part of being human too. And also, if we want grace for ourselves, at some point, in some cases, we have to do that, especially when the other person or people are coming from a good place. We have to look at intentions. There is a saying that we always judge other people by their actions, and we always judge ourselves by our intentions. That is so true. We tend to consider other people's actions and disregard their intentions. And with ourselves, we tend to think about, oh, well, I didn't mean to do that. And therefore, we think we should not be judged for our actions, but only by what we meant to do, our intentions. Giving grace or forgiveness is about understanding that other people might have meant something else too, just like you have been misunderstood in your life. Or maybe you've made mistakes. Maybe you've done things that you wish you could undo, or you wish somebody realized that you no longer would do if you could redo things. Other people feel that way too. This card is about reconnecting, about connecting with parts of ourselves and with others, and shedding that fear of the unknown, shedding the fear of going to the other side of the bridge, of the water. And all parties have to do that. And we have to recognize when that is being done for us, when somebody is reaching out to us. Let's recognize that and reach out again, reach out to them too. This world needs more bridges, fewer walls. That's what I think, especially now. We need more bridges between people, cultures, countries, ideologies, hearts, souls. I would love to see more bridges. I hope that this has been helpful for you. I would love to hear from you. Tell me, what are your favorite bridges in the world, whether real bridges, physical bridges, or other kinds of bridges. Some of my favorite bridges are in China. There's some amazing ones. Maybe I'll do a video about that at some point. But tell me about your bridges. Tell me where you are building a bridge, or you have built a bridge, maybe at work, maybe some difficult relationships. Maybe there's a chance to build a bridge, because we have to find what we have in common and start there. That's a place to build a bridge. It could just be something small. Find a way to connect with those with whom you'd like to build a bridge. Give them time. The healing can happen for you and for them. The bridges can be made, and we can all breathe again. Thanks for watching. I hope that you will come back. I'm doing a lot of these videos, and I'll do another one for you. Meanwhile, and always, please take care of yourself and take care of each other.